add you, and then I can invite some other people at the tail end of the conversation. When I'll probably just send it to you, and you got an email address, or no, I can send it to you on Discord. That's what I'll send it to you on this Discord to the message here. Okay.
Okay. Well, my Discord email is different from
No. I'll send you to the I just sent you a couple messages there on Discord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna send it to you on there, and then you can just go from there, and it'll take you to the link. Yeah, so I just gotta find you real quick. There you are. Okay. Right about now. And it'll just be a link. What is that? Actually, I'm not sure what I. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's the link. You see it? I just sent it to you. The Hangouts thing.
Yep.
Okay, so let me know when you're in there. I'll just keep you on the phone until I see you here on the thing. I see on my Google Hangout thing. Okay.
How do I? Here.
I think you should be able to follow the link directly to it, and then it should be. I got this little mic. You'll see me when you pop in and chat. Okay, there you are. All right, so we'll just do it on here. Just this has basically it's already started, and then I'll just have to edit it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's kind of echoing.
All right, let me turn this off. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me on this mic here? All right, hold on. Let me go to the control panel. Oh, my mic's off. Okay. Why is it off?
Oh, I can hear you just fine.
It's not off. It's on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
I see you. I hear nothing yet. All right. I guess I need to get on Discord, tell her. All right, try hanging up on Discord, and then see if your mic will work.
Okay? Can you hear me just fine right now?
I hear something. You sound a little fuzzy. Hang up on the Discord, and then try it. All right, try it now. Say something.
Okay, hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Are you saying anything?
Yep, I'm talking.
Ugh, I hate this damn thing. I wish you wouldn't have broke my fucking laptop. I wouldn't be having this issue. I should have just bought another one. Can you hear me okay? Type something in the little chat thing so I know.
Okay, hold on. How do I
don't know if it's my mic.
Let's see here. How do I Okay.
Sorry. I'm just kind of lounging around here in my stuff, so.
Oh, it's okay.
Can you hear me? Okay, because I can't hear myself. Wait, I had something. Where was it?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
All right. Hello? I'm sorry, this worked so much better last week when I had Eric in here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, the internet is a funny thing.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I just had you. All right, I might just have to go through the volume in my computer because I can't. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I can't hear myself. That's weird. Normally I can. I don't know. Yeah. Let me see. What am I doing wrong? Try to get these speakers working again. All right, say something.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you.
I can hear me too.
Sorry, I gotta turn that down. Does that sound better? There we go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll definitely have to edit this damn video because it's gonna be like, wow, this guy, what the hell? Does he even know technology? Like, Jesus, you don't look like a boomer, but you sure act like one when it comes to tech. Like, yeah, well, you know, hey.
Yeah, technology can be a bitch.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I'll be able to see what I'll do is I'll take this recording, send it to Dion, and then he'll edit the video for, you know, edit out all this shit that we're doing at the beginning, and then we'll just actually have the show. So that way it won't sound professional. I got it like right now. This is on my YouTube channel, but I got it private, so you know no one can see it but me. So that's probably the way I'll keep it, unless I can figure out how to do the editing technology, so I can do like a live stream and it makes it look better. So that way, you know, unless of course you just don't want me to live stream, it's just got a picture of me and stuff, and you don't really want to, you know, get doxxed or whatever, and then I'll never publish it. I'll just leave it the way it is.
No, I'm okay with
just
it.
do the audio.
I'm on social media already, and I've already been doxxed. They already have my name and all my information, so I don't even care.
Okay, so you're saying the Antifa have been trying to hassle you for a while, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I was gonna go to the AFA thing, and last year I think it was in Minnesota, but it was like it's a 2-day weekend for me, and I worked all week doing concrete. And I don't know, I just was tired. I didn't feel like driving 7 hours up to Camp Victory. And then, like, I don't know, a couple hours right before it or the day before, they decided to change it because Camp Victory wouldn't let them have the thing there. So they had to go like another few hours north. And I'm like, it was already an 8-hour drive for me. I'm not going to drive another 3 hours, you know, drive 11 hours, get there, be like, hey, what's up? And then turn right back around, drive. And then, like, my whole weekend would just been driving, you know.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't sound like fun at all. So what's Camp Victory now?
I'm sorry.
What is Camp Victory?
I don't know. I think it's some kind of. I thought it was a military, like it was named after maybe a military thing, or World War II or World War I, possibly. But it's like a state park in Minnesota somewhere.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I've never heard of Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they couldn't have the thing there. I would have thought they'd have been able to, because it's state-owned. You know, the American Renaissance always does this stuff in Tennessee. The reason why I'm looking over to the side is because, like I said, my screen's cracked. So I'm looking at my TV to be able to see, you know, see myself like, okay, what's going on? But it looks like I'm looking off in the distance like, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he not looking at the camera? You know.
Oh, that's
yeah, just give me a... Yeah, let me go grab something real quick, and I'll be right back. And
okay.
I'm just going to grab a drink because I'm thirsty. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
I had to get my rock star, dude. All right, so what we'll do is I'll basically just do like an intro to the show, and then we'll start talking about whatever you want to talk about. But we were going to discuss that stuff that you were doing that was similar to what the Wilderness Nations guys are doing. So
correct.
We can start out there, and then I'll probably ask you some general questions on. I'm going to ask you like how you got into the movement, you know, how that went over with your family and things like that. And then unless, of course, you don't want me to, and then I won't. So if there's like anything, you know.
I'm open to pretty much anything. If there's something I don't want to answer, then I'll just kindly deny it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure, you know, and I will try to keep the cussing to a minimum, because I know Matt didn't see it. He kind of plays, you know, like, hey, maybe some kids will listen to this or whatever, families. I don't know. So he was asking me not to cuss, and I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, it's not a big deal. It's a bad habit I have. You know, all my time locked up. something I picked up. So it's kind of stuck there.
It's okay. My time in the army, I grew a mouth that was horrible. So
Yeah. Well, there you go. You get around people, especially when there's a bunch of colors around you. That's all you hear is fuck, 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 fuck every 2 seconds. So hard not to pick it up. But that's all you're hearing around you, right? So.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start because I know you got work today, and I want to be on here all day. It'll probably make you stretch. I'll make my show stretch at least an hour and a half, maybe a little less. It just depends on how well the conversation is going, and stuff like that. And I think you got a pretty good conversational skill, so it'll be easy to do this interview and make it nice and long, and people will be able to stay engaged in it the entire time. You know what I mean? Like I said, with Eric, he did a pretty good job. He just threw me off with that southern accent, some of the stuff, the way he talked about it, almost made it sound like he was a born again Baptist minister. That was funny. I was like, wow, okay, I guess this is what happens when guys from the South get into Wodenism and Odinism and stuff. They get all like, well, we come around here and we was preaching the good word and have them all to them. And they turned around from that Christianity crap and started throwing that off and went back to Odin, And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Heard it said quite like that before, but that's cool, I like I said, I liked it. I think he did a pretty good job. But it was fun to listen to. Yeah, I got a lot of information. I'm gonna definitely go down to Tennessee sometime and go do a blot with them guys. Go down there and check it out. I really want to do that. But my next trip, like I said, will be out to California. I got to go out there and hang out with the fellas and go see some bands. Mystery Street's going to be playing, so
nice.
I don't know if
nice. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, they got some pretty good. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No, I was going to say, no, me and my man are going down to Tennessee in November. We don't have a specific date yet, but we're going down there in November to visit Eric and his group and see what they're doing down there.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's a real cool thing. Like you said, I'll be glad to see him and getting some more stuff done. I'm trying to talk him, as you heard on the interview, I was trying to get him to do it like, if he's going to do the Woden's Nation, why not do it like the Aryan nations used to do? Have some kind of big all-inclusive pro-white gathering, which he sounds like he wants to do with this all thing, where he can get people that are Christians, atheists, creators, whatever, and everybody just kind of come in and, the old Aryan World Congress used to be, because, obviously those guys were Christian identity, but there was lots of Odinists and creators and stuff that would go out to the Aryan nations back then. So that's what I would like to see, something big like that, where we can get together despite our different, political and religious affiliations and come together as, network and stuff like that, the way it used to be back in the 80s when the Aryan nations was still around. And that was, one of the big reasons why the SPLC was trying to sue the shit out of them, shut them down, because, they always have a couple hundred people going there every year or more. A lot of the movement leaders would be there planning stuff, doing things. I mean, obviously they're still infighting, but it wasn't as bad, I don't think. I don't think it was as bad until like.
Well, and I think a lot of the problem with why it's so bad now is because there's so many different people trying to reach for that power. And so there you got a whole bunch of millennials who are trying to reach for the power because, we got all those little outright boys, and I'm not knocking them because they have a lot of good information to put out, and they're very intelligent, and they want to go the professional route, and we need that as well. But there's so many other beliefs that are mixed into that we're trying to get out of their heads, because we're trying to go with culture and tradition, and they kind of want to bring in a more, I think, too much of a modern impact into our movement. I don't think they're thinking in the long-term goals for family and growing our community. A lot of the alt-right men don't even have a woman. And you can't grow a movement when you don't even have a woman to procreate with,
Yeah, well, my biggest issue with a lot of that stuff is coming from like the Daily Stormer and Weave and I don't know, I guess the Vandals or the War Room or something. All those dudes who came up with that white Sharia bullshit. It's
my gosh, yeah.
I was like, ever since the very beginning of the show, which pretty much was why I decided to do this show, was I done some alt-right group on Facebook, and I had these kids on there talking about marrying fucking Filipino bitches, because she's more traditional and she's got a high IQ, and I'm like, okay, dude, do you not understand the cause and the movement you're a part of? It's got nothing. It's not just about IQ, right? It's not just because and it's like. I was just like, dude, and this white Sharia shit, and they were promoting that, and I'm just like, that's the reason why you guys are virgins at fucking 20-something years old. I'm like, this is the dumb shit you latch onto. Yu-Gi-Oh! And these other Japanese cartoons, and they expect brides to act like Asians or something. I mean, or whatever, expect them to be traditional. Yeah, they're not. You're 20-something. I mean, if I was 20 years ago, if I was 23 right now, I would be like, fuck yeah, I'd be getting so much goddamn tail, it'd be ridiculous. So, and these guys are like, oh, you're fucking dressing like a whore. I'm like, dude, take advantage of that shit. And maybe you'll find one that doesn't act like a total whore that you can turn around. I don't know.
Well, right. And that has been known to happen, with a good man, a strong man who can actually lead. They've been known to lead their women in the right direction. So that's one of the big problems with today. The big problem with today is that we have a whole bunch of beta males who are trying to get on top, and they just can't seem to understand that they're not going to get on top by being controlling, pushy, and domineering in every single aspect of life. I mean, that's not how our women were, and that's not how we were treated back in the day, pre-Christian era. Pre-Christian era, we were treated with nothing but respect and love and dignity. And we were treated as, queens in our own home, goddesses in our own home, and then we treated our men likewise, and we treated them like gods.
No,
we can't play gods and goddesses these days if people are going to sit here and try to push Christian values on us.
Well, we could talk about that too. I think that would be something I'd like to kind of touch on that a little bit when I'm doing the interview. So let me go ahead and get started because we've been going for a minute and we're missing good stuff here. That's some good stuff I could have put in there, already. So I might be able to get them to edit it in at some point anyways. But I'm going to go ahead and just do the intro to the episode, and then I'll have Dion, like I said, send it to him, and he'll do the whole editing for everything. So here we go. So, all right, everybody, welcome to another week's episode of the Wolf Pack. This week I got a guest, and pretty excited to have her on. Jenny's on here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing up here in the upper Midwest and how they're trying to get some community building going in our local area. So if you want to go ahead and let us know about this, Jenny, what details you're comfortable telling us with and what you can let people know about and how they can contact you and get a hold of you to help out.
Definitely. Okay, well, hi, my name's actually Christina, but I go by Jenny on my email, so sorry about that. It's a little trickery right there. But thank you for having me. I'm glad to be on here and talking with you about everything that we need to go through today. And to get a hold of me, I am on Facebook as just Christina Olson. And I don't know what other kind of contact information you'd like me to give other than that. I don't really do anything except social media.
Well, I was just saying, if if you're collecting donations for this project you're starting, or if you're going to set up a web page for it or an email address or anything, I guess it hasn't quite got along that far yet, but Right.
Well, this is the thing with the community idea that we do have going on. That's going to be more of a private funded source from my part.
Oh, okay.
And so we definitely don't need any funds as of right now, and we probably won't be asking for that for quite a while.
Oh, okay.
So unless people are starting to get more into it, because obviously after listening to the show that you did with Eric, there's one thing in there that he had said about the vetting process and, growing the actual community itself. And we are going to be doing an extreme vetting process ourselves. So we don't want anyone to necessarily help us out fund-wise unless they're actually going to put in their time as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, right. That makes sense. It's a good idea. And I understand that a lot of the places, for the community building, it seems to be a much more concentrated effort to get to know each other and really get in and actually building communities and tribes, whereas a lot of the more political organizations, it's kind of like you can just send us money and we'll give you a membership card and away you go. And I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't slag on those people too much because there is definitely some good membership organizations out there. I, I was talking to Eric and he was talking about getting me an interview with Dr. Hill from the League of the South, and I think they are a membership organization. I mean, they probably still got a vetting process, but it's still pretty much a membership type organization, so it's good. At least I think so. I could be wrong when I talk to Dr. Hill. He might be like, "Oh no, that's not the way we do it at all." So I don't know, but I'm just assuming it's just they're such a large group that's probably kind of how they got up to that sizable numbers. But yeah, I mean, I get it. It makes sense, especially when you're trying to build a town or at least get some property where you can have some people on there and you guys can work together as an actual community and start a tribe. So,
right. And that is my only goal. When I first thought about doing this, now it was probably about 4 years ago that I actually thought about buying land and, starting up my own little community. And now it's just come to the point where I've gotten so deep in with friends, family. I call them family, but I've gotten so deep with them that now I can't help but have that strong, overwhelming urge to get it moving faster,
Yeah, well, I know that makes sense, like I said, and I'm glad to see something in our area, something that's close by, something that people can in this area that they, I guess get through the vetting process and things like that. It'll be good that they can meet and come out and do stuff. Which, like I said, at some point, I'd like to come out there and meet y'all and come see, maybe partake in a blot or something or whatever you're doing at that. But it'd be nice, and I guess what I'm saying is that I like the idea that there's more communities now trying to sprout up all across the United States. The more we can do this, where we can do things that people like Casa Pound and the Golden Dot have been doing, the better it'd be. I mean, obviously, we're not just going to go into some building in a city and squat in there like Casa Pound does, but maybe someday in the future, we'll go start taking back parts of Milwaukee or Chicago or Minneapolis or something, that'll become abandoned and be like, all right, this is our territory now. Because I'd say in the future, that's probably the way this shit's going to head anyways when the collapse starts happening. So, I don't know that everybody's going to be able to make it out to the country, out in the, deep woods. We still got a lot of our people here in all these cities and stuff. So I think people got to, got to get prepared. But, so I think people got to get prepared for that eventuality too. So, but sorry, let me see. The next line of question I guess I should ask is, now that you're starting it, you got it off the ground, you're just looking at some properties, and then you're looking at places that you can grab up, and then you'll start building like campsites and stuff like Eric was talking about, maybe some blots and temples and stuff up in some wooded areas, or...
Right. So right now I do have land that I'm going to inherit, and that won't be for a little while, but I do plan on adding that in too once I get that. And plus on top of the land that I will be buying, our plan is to start off with just little homes, nothing too big or fancy or anything like that, just everything you need in a little home, right? And we're trying to make it as off the grid as possible. Not saying that we're going to be completely off the grid where we're not going to have, any electricity or no plumbing or anything like that, but just off the grid as so much as no cable sources, no internet sources, minus our phones. We can't stay completely isolated from the world. Obviously, we need to have some sort of contact. So, but the plan is just to build the community with each other so far as growing our own crops, growing our families together, getting so united that we can actually look at each other as family and not just friends coming together every once in a while. And we will be holding bloats up there. We will be holding rituals of all kinds. And that's the plan, is to eventually build a hall that's big enough where we can all feast together whenever. We can come together for all the special holidays of our faith and just be close to our folk. Because our folk right now are so spread out. And you're right. We do have a lot of people in the cities. And a lot of them, they probably won't follow us up that way. And that's okay. But eventually the cities are going to get to be too much to handle for our people, and we're going to want to move out. And if we don't, we're going to fall into the degenerative behavior that we see almost daily in the news and just in real life.
Yeah, well, like I said with Eric, I think it's got a lot to do with the commute and stuff too. Because I remember when Craig Crobb was trying to start that city in Leaf, he had issues, people coming out there because it was an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes to the closest place to find some work. And it's like, I
Right.
get that he wanted to take over. He figured it was a small town, it'd be easy, just buy up all this property and move everybody in. But it's like, well, you got to at least be close enough to where people are going to be able to make a living, because you can't just, unless, unless you're Richard Spencer or somebody like that who's independently wealthy, you're kind of, the rest of us, probably the majority of us, I'd say 85% or more working class type people, where we can't just afford just roll up and be like, screw it, I don't need a job for a couple of years. I'll just, it'd be great if we could do this for a living. There's a few. Like I said, I think there's a few that probably do it for a living. Like there's a couple guys that probably get enough Patreon donations and whatnot and their YouTube channel's got enough views where they can actually make a living off this. But that's definitely few and far between. Most of us still have to have regular full-time jobs and stuff. So.
Right. That's true. Well, in the area that I'm looking at right now for the land, it is close to cities where you can get jobs. And the type of living that we'd be doing, we wouldn't need a lot of money for it. I mean, for the initial building of things, yes, we would need money for that, of course. And for just getting settled and kind of set up, we would need money for that. But after it's all set up and running, this is going to be a very low maintenance type way of living.
Yeah, so, like self-sufficient, where you're growing your own crops and maybe having some cattle or herds of different types of livestock that you can use to eat. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when I talked to Eric a little bit, I was saying I think the wolves kind of did a little bit of that, where they managed to become self-sufficient, and have livestock and farmland and stuff like that. I know I bring them up a lot, but I am impressed with what they've done, even if I don't agree with everything they're about.
Right. And I think they're doing wonderful things. I haven't gotten into full details with it. It's basically been my man who's been having conversations with Eric. But as far as from what I've read and what I've seen, I think they're doing wonderful things down there, and they've been making progress pretty quickly for how short of a time that they've been doing their thing.
Yeah, it's true. Like you said, I think it's more of a, just some of the people that they got around, and obviously we wouldn't want around us, and that's
right.
I think that's the issue. Obviously, I think that's what it's been. So I get it, but like I said, I still admire the work they're doing, because they have done their credit. I'd say they're a credit to what they've been able to accomplish, and they've set an example for everyone else. Even if, like you said, even if we don't agree with them, and I don't have to agree with everyone 100% of the time on everything they're doing to admire something they're doing. So
Definitely.
like I said, I admire a lot of the stuff the Identity Europa kids are doing, but I don't agree with some of their attitude towards the old school crowd. Sometimes I think they should listen to us to get some wisdom, but they seem to think they know it all, which is irritating. Which I guess is my problem with almost all the millennials. Really, is the generation Y and Z being a little too whiny and thinking they know everything. Yeah.
Yes, I see it all the time, every day.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying, and I don't want to say it's all of them, because obviously there are a lot of those younger people out there that did wake up and realize that society was not this multicultural dream is not a paradise that they've been preached about all the time, and being white isn't the greatest crime of all time. So I'm glad to see that they've woke up to that. So it's good.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was also going to ask you too, since I got you on here, and I don't get as many females on the show as I like to, but since you're on, I'm going to have to ask you a bunch of questions from a female perspective to let the listeners get an idea, and, just kind of like what women are thinking and stuff, like what they're thinking. So the first thing I'll ask, though, is I'm going to kind of ask you how you got into the movement, what brought you into as my buddy Jason likes to say, what brought you into the fight for white well-being?
Okay, well, I've actually always been geared towards our folk. Since I was a kid, I remember that I was always surrounded by our folk, and I never drifted from that. I never hung out with anybody except our folk, unless it was a job or school or something like that where I was forced to integrate, with other people. But as for getting into it like I am now, it's only been, I'd say, 2 years that I've consciously been making an effort towards helping and encouraging the movement. And I've been slowly learning through, just different inspirations. I mean, my man's a big one. The AFA is a huge one. And Identity Europa, I talk to them not as frequently as I used to, but I do talk to them once in a while still. And just all the books I've been reading, all of these have been inspiration. And I've looked back on my life and I've seen how the white Europeans have just been displaced. We've been degraded, and it's been basically over past actions that have nothing to do with us. So that right there kind of kicked me into high gear to start acting instead of just talking and thinking, what I could do. I started acting on what I should be doing. And so that's kind of what got me into this movement directly was Odinism. I am an Odinist, and I do follow the ways of our ancestors. And so that really turned my eye towards it as well. And it made me realize that following dark paths of modern society is it's a lost cause, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, because I think there's still a lot of women out there that are somewhat torn to that past and that modernity, thinking that this feminist stuff and things of that nature, where like, there's always they always trade up, and they always find somebody better and never settle, and things of that nature, like, I'm settling and stuff like that. And it's just like, you know what, you got to realize that there's, I guess I would say, limitations on everything. So you're gonna have to figure out where you're at. I'm not telling you, if you're unhappy and miserable, to settle for someone that you don't really care for or whatever. But I mean, if you're relatively happy and healthy and doing good, I'd say you're great. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know really how to give advice to the young women out there, because I'm not a woman, and I don't understand you females. You perplex me all the time. But I'm definitely not going to be some idiot like Weave or Anglin who just can't get laid and decides they're going to go on some rant about white Sharia and promote some stupid like that, and then a few months down the road start screaming out American nationalism, and that we don't need anything to do with white nationalism, and we don't want to be with them losers and them skinheads and neo-Nazis and guys like the TWP and all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, you're an idiot. You've been in a movement for 3, 4, 5 years. You started out like hardcore. I'm going to be like this neo-Nazi website, call it the Daily Stormer, off of the Stormer from Julius Streicher, and then I'm going to start promoting white Sharia, and then a couple months later I'm going to change it again. Well, actually, first he went from being like a neo-Nazi site, or I guess I don't like calling it neo-Nazi because it's not, but as the media would call it, white supremacist neo-Nazi. He went over the top with the National Socialism symbols and referring back to the Third Reich and stuff, like I said, because obviously the Daily Stormer was a playoff of Der Stormer from Julius Streicher, which was at the time considered the most anti-Semitic publication in the 20s, and they ended up shooting him or hanging him like he was one of the first people they killed after Nuremberg trials, because they hated the newspaper that he had wrote back in the 20s and 30s and during the 40s. But anyways, so sorry, I'm digressing a little here, people. But the point is, he went to that, then he went to this, we're the alt-right now. I'm going to jump on this alt-right bandwagon. Then it's like, let me hop on white Sharia stuff. And now I'm going to go on this American nationalism thing and tell everyone that doesn't wave an American flag and try to dress up as suit and ties that you're just trying to destroy the movement, and white nationalism is horrible. And I don't get this thinking that's going on. I mean, I understand wanting to appeal to the public, but at the same time, trying to hide what you believe from people isn't what's the point of that? That's not gonna get you anywhere, because once they figure out, oh, well, this is what you actually believe, well, screw you. I got like 5 nephews that are black or something, so piss off or something. You know what I mean? Like, at
Right.
least just be honest. You know, you can be honest about who you are, and then just explain to people, this is what's happening. This is what's happening to our countries. This is what happened to all the nations that Europeans live in, that where white people are, and we need to stand up for our own selves. There's nothing, genocidal about wanting to stand up for your own people, preserve your own races, your own lands, your own nations. We need a homeland too. If we don't have one, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I just said exactly. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, if we don't have our own nations, our own homelands, there's going to be no future for us. We're the ones that are going to be genocided, and they can say white genocide isn't real and whatever, and that's fine. They can say whatever they want. But I mean, the path we're on right now, we will be extinct as a people within 100 years or less, and we'll be minorities in our very own nations within like 30 or 40 years. In most of them here in the United States, I believe it's 2042 is when we're going to end up becoming a minority in our own land. So,
right.
It's not something. And this is the thing I've said many times to all these kids that are like in the alt-right, the IE type people, the ones, and I'm not trying to specify out IE either, because the Daily Stormer crowd does it too now. Is that all us old school guys, all us the old guard, as I like to call us, all us guys have been around 20 years, 10 years, 15, whatever. The reason why we've been nationalists and white nationalists, and yeah, sure, the media smeared us, and you bought into these lies and campaigns that the media's had, is the reason why it seems like it's more palpable now is because 20 years ago, when I used to go around telling people, white genocide's real, the Earth's most endangered species, the white race, let's help preserve it, right? That was the old National Alliance stickers, and I loved them, and they were good. They made the whole point and the message. But part of what the problem was is people would look at you and think you're crazy. Like, we're the majority in the United States, the majority in all the European nations. There's no way white people are going to die out. You're just spinning some crazy conspiracy shit. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me about the Kahila and this cabal of Jewish bankers and other stuff that controls the world, right? This is what people are going to think. They're going to think you're some kind of Alex Jones tier nut job. So I would be like, and this is before Alex Jones was around, but there was other people like him back then. And I'd be like, no, dude, this isn't some wild conspiracy. This is truth. Just look at it. And, like I said, 20 years ago, people thought you were crazy. Now, 20 years on, it's actually like, oh, okay, well, 25, 30 years down the road, you are going to be a minority white man, white woman. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing, going back to the female perspective from it, though, is that the compassion, this is the problem. The problem with women is not a problem. I shouldn't say that. We're not necessarily a problem, but one of our issues that we face is the compassion and the empathy part of it. We tend to be very compassionate towards anyone or anything that looks like it's going to be harmed, or that looks like it's getting its feelings hurt or whatnot, right? And the thing is, I've noticed this compassion issue, and I call it an issue because I've seen it with men now too. I've seen it with people who sit here and say, oh, well, I can hang out with, this Mexican guy over here. I mean, he's just a friend, we're just hanging out. And I'm just saying as friends only. And that's okay. People can do whatever they want. I'm not the bearer of anybody's beliefs or what they do with their life or anything like that. But I choose not to do that because of the only reason that, well, number one, I'm 100% separatist, but also because I've seen what that did to our society and what it has done and what it's still doing. Whenever we let anybody have an inch, they always go the extra mile. And once we let them go the extra mile, then it just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing, and we get deeper into where we're at now. And it's going to get worse because of the compassion effect. And so this compassion that women have, I think that's the biggest reason why any woman ever goes to any other race to procreate with or to just be with, is because of the compassion thing. I don't think it's an actual attraction. I think it's a compassion thing. What can I take care of? What can I nurture? What can I be closer to? What will accept me for all of me because they need me? And that's the thing. A lot of women have turned away from our alpha white males because they feel that they're not needed as much. They feel that they're being powered down upon. And I don't know if it's all females. It's definitely not my perspective. I'm with a man who's very much one of those alpha male types, and I think it's wonderful. But a lot of women that I talk to, they don't like it. They don't like it because it makes them feel very inferior. And I try to show them that it's not about inferiority or superiority. It's about the fact that women have our special talents and our special gifts that we bring to the relationship, as well as the men do, and that we need to see those differences as good, nothing that's inferior or superior, to each other, because we both add to this society, and we both create a society that flows very smoothly when we accept ourselves as who we are, instead of letting all our fears and our issues get in the way.
Yeah,
And so,
no, that's a
yeah,
guy.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I try to tell young girls, because I'm not very old. I mean, I'm older, but when it comes to these millennials or the younger generation, I have a child who's going to be 16 very soon. And she's brilliant, and she's pure, and she's good. And, she hasn't done anything to ruin that yet. Thank you. And I talk to her about this kind of stuff constantly, because I don't want her to fall into modern society. I try to deter her and show her why it's so important to stay with your bloodlines and to stay with your own people. And it's nothing to do with hate. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that you respect the ones that gave you life. You respect where you came from, and you give honor to those who came before you, who are no longer here, but they're watching us, they're looking down, and they're going to be rolling over in their graves if our people go out like the way we look like we're heading now.
Yeah.
So
no, I hear you. That's actually some pretty good advice, I think, because for me, I haven't really known a whole lot about that kind of stuff, and I hadn't seen it from the female perspective, because, like I said, I'm a man, so I don't really think of it like that. I try, like, for me, it's always just been like, I try to fucking be. Well, I didn't always used to be this way. I'll admit, before I went to prison, I was really a selfish kind of dude, and I didn't really give a shit. I mean, I was so bad that when I was, like, engaged, I didn't buy my old lady a present for Christmas. Is how horrible I was back in those days. I was just such a, I just didn't really think about it. I mean, I personally still think it was a little. I still think you women folk really do take a sentimental attachment to a lot of stuff, that, like, just stuff, right? You know what I mean?
right.
Like buying stuff for you on holidays and whatever. But I've learned since then, because I thought about it when I was locked up, and I'm like, this is where I've screwed up, and this is where I made mistakes, and this is where I should have done stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, I think you're right about a lot of that. I think that it seems to me, at least, that you are right, because they have this, like, because now I'm totally different. I do all that shit that women like, buying them crap and flowers for no reason, all that stuff. To me, I just think it's like, I feel like I'm training a kid or a dog or something. Like, why do I gotta buy this stuff? Okay, well, there you go, buy this. Tell you how much I care, and I'm not, like, me telling you is good enough. Apparently, I gotta buy you something while I tell you this, because just saying it's empty words, apparently, I don't know. You know what I mean? But whatever. That's just me. All right, so, but yeah, so, anyways, you make a good point, I think, because to me it does seem like a lot of these younger generations seem to be thinking that, if I'm in a relationship with a guy like myself or any other alpha type dude, that they don't feel like they're equal in it. They're feeling inferior somehow. And to me, I'm just like, I'm not trying to make you feel inferior. I don't think that in my head. I think, you're a woman, and if you're my girl, I care for you, try to take care of you as much as possible. Within my means, I will do everything I can to take care of you, make you feel good and safe and all that stuff. But, I don't know, it's like, maybe that's some of the stuff that I run into when I date these chicks that are younger, is they get this whole, my God, dude, this guy's such an alpha, and I feel so da-da-da-da, and I don't know, that's the only thing I can think. But, I mean, I didn't mean to make this about me, by the way. This is just, I think of
You're fine.
if you're running into these issues too, you might see it. I think it really depends a lot on the woman too. Personally, I think a lot of us on the woman, and I think also it has to do with the kind of the way they were raised and the kind of stuff that they were taught as a child. Like you're teaching your child, obviously the way that you were raised and the way you think is right in a traditional type role, whereas a lot of these women, their parents either A, don't really say nothing, give a shit, or two, they decide that, you know, women's lib is the way to go. We got this fourth wave feminism shit, and, you know, basically the whole just go out, be sluts, ride the cock carousel till they're 30, then try settling down, try to find some dude to settle with, and they usually end up with some beta they belittle, and he ends up, you know, having some kids with them, and then they just have a generation of weak children and weak kids, and it's just kind of disgusting. And it's not just because a dude's dad is beta doesn't mean that they're going to be a beta. It just means that, you know, they might have some weaker genes they're working with, and they might have to start taking some testosterone, some other good drugs to get to that level the rest of us been out here. But no, I'm actually kind of teasing a little bit, but you know, they can still work out and get themselves into shape and get into that mentality too. So I don't really think that they're totally lost. I mean, genetics is obviously going to make it easier if you got a family. Right. Or you got a father that's, you know, high functioning alpha male type thing. It'll definitely help, you know. But, you know, it's not to say it's a lost cause if your dad's some beta pussy, you know. I don't know. Sorry, I should have threw that last one there. I'm trying not to cause people.
You're fine. You're fine. But believe me, yeah, I lived in the Army. I've been around men for my whole life. I understand.
Okay. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So I'd say to anyone out there right now who's just skinny little skinny jean wearing dude, please stop wearing skinny jeans, because that's just horrible. You look like a woman. Knock it off. Yeah, I don't care if it's fashionable or not. Get some regular jeans, and then you know, start going to the gym and working out, man. You don't have to. Or you go to an MMA gym or something like that. That'd probably be even better than lifting weights. Just being a meathead, you know, is nice, and the chicks like it. But you know, you're probably better off learning some real fighting skills and then hitting the weights. Or, right. You know, you can do both at the same time, whatever. But, you know, you need to learn to be able to defend yourself and be capable of it, because these, you know, the non-whites out there, they have an old saying, old Metzger put out the old T-shirt, around blacks never relax. Well, I'd say anyone out there, you should definitely keep that to heart, you know, because they are definitely dangerous people. And I had Patrick Little on my show, and I like Patrick, and I'm fucking 100% in support of him and his run for president in 2020. I'm all on board with it. But Pat, I think you're a little delusional when you think that once we get rid of the Jews, the blacks are just going to go back to being like really nice, and they'll just do whatever we tell them to do. I'm pretty sure they're still going to try chopping our heads off. So
I'm pretty sure too.
Yeah, I swear, I had like a 10-minute argument with him when I was on my show. I was screaming at him like, dude, no. So. But yeah, that's just all I'm saying. You got to be careful. You can't relax around those people. They're not people that you can relax around. They're either going to try to kill you or rape you, or possibly both, depending on what sex you are, you know. And just because you're a dude doesn't necessarily mean they won't try raping you either. I mean, they probably won't unless they're in penitentiary or something. But you know, it pretty much, you get what I'm saying, though. I mean, I'm sure you understand. From a female's perspective, I'd kind of like to hear a little bit about, because I'm sure you've been harassed by these blacks and browns where they yell, you know, derogatory comments, try whistling at you or making some. So how do you deal with that without having to pull out a mace or a gun or something, or is it always got to resort to that? Because I kind of feel like, I got a feeling it doesn't. But, you know, how do you deal with that? What's your advice for women out there?
Well, this is the thing. I live in a small town. I live in a small town where I barely ever see anybody of any other race except my own, which is nice. But when I have gone down to the cities, and actually in my job now, I work with 3 different men that are they're each from a different race, you know. Yeah. And I actually just ran into an incident recently with being harassed at my work. And it wasn't even just light harassment. It was full out derogatory comments made by the man. And I had looked at him, and, well, I said a few choice words that I'm also trying not to swear, so I won't say them on here. But, but you know, you can't use the common words that we use in our personal conversations. So I didn't really know what to do with it at the moment because I was just kind of thrown off. And so I had told him what I thought. And then I told him it would never, ever happen, ever. And then I walked away, and I had told my boss what had happened too. And I usually don't like being a tattletale because I usually can handle those situations myself. But when it comes to this type of stuff where I can't speak my mind unless I want to get fired, then I told my boss what had occurred, and he actually has discussed firing the man. So that was that. But in personal life, when I have encountered things with men like that, honestly, I'm not your typical female. I will usually stand up, and I will very much threaten a man who talks to me like that, just because I've had some pretty bad incidents in my life with being overpowered, and that's not a comfortable feeling, and it's kind of scary, especially considering men are naturally stronger than women, you know.
Yeah.
Physiologically speaking, we could be as tough as we want, but men just have that strength factor that overpowers, you know. And so when you talk about carrying weapons and whatnot, I do actually carry weapons on me at all times. I've never had to use them, thankfully, but it's always a preventative measure, you know. And
yeah, well,
so
I mean, it's better to go on trial than, you know, be carried to the hospital, beaten, raped or something, you know. That's
oh yeah. Oh, I agree completely. And that's why I tell my daughter too. My kids, they're very much well informed of what's out there in the world. I do not keep them sheltered. I'm not one of those parents who says, "Oh, we shouldn't talk about this because it might scare you." No, I talk about it with my kids so they're prepared. And my kids are actually, they're not afraid of the world. They know the truth of the world, and they're not afraid because they have the facts. So since they have the facts, they know who to stay away from, and they know who they can possibly trust. So yeah. And I think that's the other thing that you mentioned about the way people are raised. I was actually raised in where my mother was a very big feminist. She still is a feminist, and to the extreme points, and she's a liberal on top of it. It's kind of sickening. But but then you got my father, who is an alpha male, and he was the traditional type. And I don't know how they ended up together, but all I saw from her was disrespect towards him on a constant daily basis growing up. And I'm not going to lie, that did get ingrained into me for a little bit during my teenage years and my early 20s. And I had to really pop out of that if I wanted any chance of raising good kids and having a good man in my life, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's something I kind of think. I think there is a problem. I think there's some women that, like you said, with the getting raised that way and then reading all this stuff, you know, and being taught in schools that, you know, this is the way you should act, and on TV and movies where, you know, women like Amy Schumer, the empowered slut that goes around choosing to do whatever she wants to do, and I'll sleep with this guy and that guy and this guy, and, you know, just totally being like a piece of trash. And it's like, you know, I mean, I know it probably sounds hypocritical because I'm a dude. I've talked about, you know, just bang a chick and blah, blah. But I've always said, you know, you got to bang them into your way of thinking. I've never been like, oh, yeah, just do it like, you know, just do it just to do it, you know.
Right.
And I don't know, you know, and I get it. It's a modern society, the new way things are going. But I personally still think that, you know, most women, I would think, I don't know, but, you know, I know they do got these slut watch and stuff like that, which really kind of throws me off because when I was a kid, getting called slut was a shameful thing, and no one wanted to be called a slut. They didn't want to be known as a slut around school and stuff like that. But apparently that seems to be what they're trying to push as the new normal, along with pedophilia and, you know, transgenderism for kids and everything else. So, you know, I would say it's... Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to put feminism in the same category as the transgenderism or shit like that, because that's obviously far worse. But I like I said before, I don't know, like, the way people think of traditionalism, I don't really think that it has to be some kind of 1950s type shit at the same time, some Leave It to Beaver type stuff, where some of these kids that seem to be coming up now, they think, oh, well, that's the way it should be. And I mean, I'm not going to knock women if they want to be a good mother and a good house, take care of the house and do stuff like that as a traditional old style role. That'd be fine, but I'm not going to knock another woman either that's going to go out and work and help provide for the family and stuff too. Because I mean, it is unfortunately the society we live in where you're probably going to have to do it, and in a lot of these places where you're not going to be able to afford to just be the sole breadwinner. I mean, right? I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say with that's the part where we know who comes into play with ruining the options for women to become stay-at-home mothers and stay-at-home wives. I'm not going to start going off on a banter about who it is, but I think you and I both know what has kind of led up to the situation that we're in now, and the fact that women basically almost don't have that choice anymore because we need 2 incomes just to raise a family. And then not only that, you don't ever see your kids. So you're never even around your kids to raise them properly. And then you have the system raising them. And the system raises them to be robots. I mean, pretty much robotic ways of thinking. And the more they can dumb them down and the more they can get them all on the same wavelength, the more they'll have their little robots working for them, and everything will be fine and perfect harmony for them because everybody's doing what they've always been taught to do, which is work, go home, go to sleep, get up again, work, go home. It's the same repetitive behavior.
They forgot to buy and consume too. They want you to consume all those products and stuff and go out there and get nice and fucked up on some drugs or alcohol and go out and party and sleep around with hundreds of people by the time you're in your early 20s. So maybe you'll have kids, maybe you're not. Probably better off just not having kids because the world's overpopulated and people, we need less people to be around because we're 7 billion. And it's like, why is it always these white Western developed nations that we're the ones not having kids? Like, if we're going to sit here and talk about world overpopulation, if we're going to get serious about it, these liberals want to get serious, and atheists and centrists and libertarians and whoever else wants to get serious about overpopulation in the world, we need to look at the places where they got the most people, like China, India, places in Africa where the population is exploding. So if we want to really get serious about it, we could start handing out some pills to sterilize people or give them some operations to sterilize these people. Like, if they really want to talk about reducing the world population, this is just, like I said, this is where the problem's coming from. It's not coming from Western developed nations when we're barely replacing ourselves. We're having all these countries that are, quote, third world countries, obviously the brown and black and yellow countries of the world that are overwhelming us with their billions of people. I mean, China's got over, about 1.5 billion. You got India's got like 1 billion now. Those 2 countries alone, if they would have some kind of population control, we could easily start seeing world population go down to more manageable levels for our environment and our natural world, So if people are real environmentalists, they wouldn't sit there and say, oh, I'm not going to have kids. They'll be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a, Doctors Without Borders. I'm going to go over there and start sterilizing these people.
Right. That would make sense.
That would definitely help. I mean, we wouldn't have to worry about, all these millions of kids starving in Africa or India or China. They just not having it, they wouldn't be able to have 20 kids at a time, so it wouldn't be an issue. Maybe if they only had 1 child, they could actually take care of that child properly. Maybe then they might learn some familiar responsibilities and stuff, I mean, I don't know how many times I can tell you that I'd heard when I was locked up, this guy that's got like 10, 12 kids and doesn't take care of one of them and ain't with any of the women that he's had these kids with, or maybe he's with one of them that he's got like 1 or 2 kids with, and then he's got another 5 babies, mamas, as he like to call it, out there, and then we're paying for it. This is the system we're paying for, and this is the kind of people we're bringing into our system. Like, it's not like when they come over from India or Pakistan or wherever, they decide, oh, let's start having small families like the rest of these Western countries. They're like, hell no, there's welfare benefits and everything. Let's have 20 more kids because we'll get more money for having more children,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I was going to ask you, I know there's a bunch of Somalians up towards your area or not far from you. I imagine you see that kind of welfare fraud all the time.
I was just going to go into that. Red Ice TV on YouTube, they actually just did a little documentary on Minnesota because they said that we're representing Sweden pretty well in the fact that we are one of those welfare states. And that's kind of how Sweden is. And I mean, minus the fact that they're a country, but the way that our politics run, that's what we've been doing. We've been handing out money to Somalians and every other immigrant who comes to our state who needs help, even if they're not registered. And I think it's been in the million. I'd say in the millions now that they've registered it. They've been giving away millions of dollars, and they've found out that these people aren't even, they don't even have half the things that they say they have, like for kids, for the amount of kids they have and for all the things they need. They don't, they're just mooching off the system as much as they can, and we're giving it away freely. We're not even questioning it because they're immigrants and they need help.
Yeah, because they can barely speak. They don't know how to use toilets. All this modern day stuff is just all brand new to them. They think it's like voodoo or magic or something. Oh, wow, running automobiles. I mean, that's a good point. I remember seeing that video. It was pretty good because they documented how there was all those people out there, millions and millions of dollars in welfare fraud that's been exposed. And there are these trials that are happening there in Minnesota, but they really haven't publicized it outside of local Minnesota, Minneapolis, or wherever they happen. They really haven't publicized it much because, that's unimportant type stuff. Don't worry about it there, Whitey. You don't need to worry about that welfare fraud. You don't need to worry about these great refugees we're bringing in. They're just integrating our society so well. The same problems they're having in Sweden and Germany and Austria and Italy and all these other countries is the same kind of problems we're having here in the United States. I'd say the biggest difference between us and some of those countries over there is you got places like Italy where they'll just, straight up, murder them whenever they do something out of line. I mean, they don't fuck around too much. Sorry, I cussed, but whatever. They don't mess around too much. Maybe you can edit that out, but they won't mess around, and it's the kind of thing that, this is what I learned in all my time being locked up is that all these non-whites, all these blacks and browns and the rest of them, they all seem to think whenever you give them kindness, they think that's a weakness. I can take advantage of that. This person's compassion is something I can use against them because obviously they're weak and they're easy. They're suckers. They're marks. I'm going to go ahead and use them for everything I can, and I'm going to, take everything they got, and then when they stop wanting to give, then I'm going to start coming out and trying to intimidate them and use violence and stuff, So that's the games that they play. That's the kind of stuff that they do. And I mean, for people out there that don't know, that's what it is. It's just a form that we've allowed our governments to go ahead and hand it over and stuff. It's never going to be enough for these people. Reparations will never satisfy them. And I've said it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's why Minnesota right now has a Muslim, what is she, a senator, I think? Yeah. Muslim senator, I think. I don't remember her name. But she was there so I don't know if you heard about this, but do you remember not last year, the year before, or maybe it was last year, when that march against Sharia took place? Yeah. Yeah, that was last year. Yeah. So I organized that, right? And once I organized that, the people that were with me who were going to come and help me with that, which were mainly Christians, I'd say, they actually took it out of my hands and they handed it over to some liberal type group. And I don't even know where these people were out of, and I don't remember their name. I wish I could, but they handed it over to them and they said that they were going to have some sort of grassroots support. And I said, okay, that sounds a little odd. Why don't we just go with our local support and just have them join in, but not run it? And when this occurred, then I found out about this group that they were nothing more than just more bleeding heart liberals. And they were trying to take over the group because they didn't want it to be against Sharia or against Muslims or against anything like that, because they felt that it would offend them. And that's why they were trying to take it over. So then I eventually stepped in. And I said, no, you're not in charge anymore. Thank you. I'm taking this back. And so I took it back, and a few people dropped off, but majority of them stayed. Our speakers stayed, everything stayed. And we never actually even got to get up on the podium and speak because of the Muslims that came in that day to the Capitol. they didn't allow us to have any platform whatsoever. And so we kind of just stood there with our signs, talking to everybody, interviewing people, you know, kind of trying to get our voices heard at that time. And that's when I met the Muslim senator or whatever she is, legislator. I don't know who she is, but she came up to me and she tried shaking my hand, and I couldn't even look at her in the, I couldn't even do it, just because I know what their intentions are and I know what they're trying to do. And they're just trying to push for more welfare and for more of their people to get in here so they can overpopulate and make more of their little, what do you call it? What are their Muslim churches? What are those?
Mosque.
Mosque, thank you.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you think being over in Iraq I would know these things still, but I forget. And so, yeah, just the fact that they're trying to force their way into our society, and they're doing it without any type of hidden motive. They're doing it just outright, and we're accepting it in.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That is one. I think that's also another thing that's kind of helped us out is we don't have quite the huge Muslim presence of, you know, the European what's been happening in Europe. But I mean, you know, you got obviously Minnesota and Michigan. Minnesota's got, I think, mostly Somali Muslims, and then you go to Michigan, it's like a bunch of Pakistanis and other Arab types. But I like think about the thing. The nice thing about something like March Against Sharia is you can get a bunch of people that may not necessarily agree with us on everything, but they at least know that there is some danger coming from these people. Now, I mean, it would be nice if they could wake up and realize that just having all these different groups of people from different races and ethnicities is not gonna do anything. America, when it was founded, was, you know, whatever, 90+% white, and throughout the entire basically life of the nation, it's always been an 85% white or more. And that's the reason that whole melting pot thing, the whole we could mix together and do stuff, was because it was a bunch of different European, Western European nations, and then eventually we added in some Southern Europeans, and then we started adding in some Eastern Europeans. Unfortunately, there was a lot of the tribe, a lot of these Jews that came in amongst those people and started buying up this stuff, media, and started pushing a lot of this Marxism that we see in today's society. And it's a damn shame, you know, because you had the whole Frankfurt School that ended up importing themselves over into, trying to remember what college it was. I think it was Yale, I believe, where they ended up all coming over. So then they started spreading that poisonous ideology, this cultural Marxism we got today, where you got these SJWs, where everyone's triggered. You got snowflakes. There's no platforming for fascists, according to them. So we'll burn down an entire town, and then we'll tell everyone else it was these Nazis that were violent and did all the violence against us. Yeah, you can see video footage of them throwing bricks and bottles at people. They're just sitting there trying to raise the alarm to the rest of America. And obviously, since we've had all these generations of journalists working for these companies and also being indoctrinated in these schools, that they always end up taking the side of, you know, the extreme communists, except for, you know, you got that one channel, Fox News, that decides they're not going to do it. But God knows how many of those people that actually work for them think the same stuff as the lefties, but they just like, oh, I got to make money, so I'm going to shill for some right-wing ideas, so it looks like we actually have opposition to what's happening here, you know.
Right.
So, the American public clearly was not on board with this transforming America into some kind of third world shithole like Mexico. That's the reason why we ended up getting Trump as president. Otherwise, you know, if that was what the American people really wanted, immigration reform would have passed in like 2012 when they were trying to do it, or maybe it's 2010 when they had the Gang of Eight with Bush, George, the original, or sorry, not the original, the son, George Bush Jr., when he was trying to push the immigration reform and open the gates and give us some amnesty. So the American people that are here, they're not for it. They don't want it. That's not what we want. Just like in a lot of those European countries, they didn't want it either. They didn't vote that in. And it was only this, you know, sizable. I would love to say it was a really small minority of the public, but it's a sizable minority of the public. You know, I mean, it's a probably smaller, much smaller portion of our actual kin and our folk. You know, our white folk there, but obviously the like blacks and browns and other non-whites, it's a huge percentage of those people that actually agree with a lot of these ideologies, because it gives them all the stuff that they want. You know, okay, well, if you're brown or black or yellow and you can get into a affirmative action program, you can get into college easier because you're a different skin color, then yeah, you're gonna go be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of that shit. At least if you got half a brain, you are. And you know, they do. You know, maybe not all do. I mean, but you know, you understand what I'm saying? It's a battle for resources that we have here in this country. We're all living under the same system, and we can't live under the same system and try to battle for these resources. That's why we need to start separating from the system as much as possible and do the kind of things that you're doing and that Eric's doing and other people around the world are doing, is starting our own communities so we can separate from them and be like, we don't want to be part of that system anymore. We're fine. Thank you very much. We'll separate and we'll do our own thing. And you guys can go on living in this hellhole that you call multiculturalism and have fun with your diversity. We'll go ahead and just take our place and live our own lives. You know, I mean, the only safe place in South Africa is like Oran, or how do you say that? Orano? Is that how it's pronounced?
You know, I'm not really sure.
I think it's Orano, but someone in the comment section will correct me. I'm sure. I think it's Orano, but it's those two communities in South Africa. So if you guys haven't watched Farmlands, I think Lauren Southern actually goes there. But I know I've seen documentaries on it. It's like the only two safe towns in all of South Africa. Everywhere else is a crime-ridden shithole of multiculturalism. The black South African government rules, and these two places that are for Afrikaners only, the only two cities they have left, are actually nice, pleasant places to live. It's
right.
It is, and it's like, you know, I was talking about this the other day when I was here on with Dion, and I'll probably bring it up a couple more times because I ended up watching this movie. Just Don convinced me we should watch it because it'd be funny or something, I guess. See what it was about. It was random about it. We watched that movie Get Out, right? And I'm watching it at the very beginning of the movie. There's this black dude that's in the suburbs, and he's on this nice manicured street with all these nice houses, and he's on the phone with his friend. He's like, "Oh man, this place is creepy. All these suburbs, all these nice houses and rooms, it's like a forest out here, man. This is some creepy ass cracker shit." And then of course he gets kidnapped and turned into a slave. But my point, that's not what happens in real life. Right? That's not what's really going on out in the suburbs. We see a black dude out there. He's casing the place, looking for a house to rob, or maybe go rape someone or whatever. You know, go break into this rich person's house and we'll kill their family and steal everything out. I mean, that's what the real story would have been if Get Out would have been a much more realistic horror show. It would have been them kidnapping a family of white people, torturing them, killing them, and stealing their stuff, and then getting caught probably within an hour or two because they're so stupid they can't ever get away with anything.
Oh, exactly. Yep. No, I saw that movie and I laughed pretty hard at that entire movie. It was a horrible depiction of anything that they think that we're like, you know, white people kidnapping black people, brainwashing them, and then turning them into our slaves. That's not what happened.
Yeah, no. It's not, and it's not a desire that white people have either. I mean, it's not like we sit there and plot like, oh, you know what I think would be great? We're having all these problems, these black people burning down our towns. Well, if we could just go back to the good old days of when we had the whip on them, you know, that would just be great. Now it's like, no, we seen the error of our ancestors' ways by bringing them over here, and we're like, yes, we need to they need reparations. We need to reparate them back to their countries of origin, take them back to Africa, send them back to their own lands, and we'll be in our own lands. And then from there, we will get along much better and be able to do things, you know, much better. We'll be able to they can trade us coconuts, and we'll give them an iPhone or something, whatever, you know. We can do, we can give them, you know, they still do have, you know, precious metals and natural resources, and the Chinese or whoever's over there right now, we can trade with the Chinese or whoever, and they can give us their stuff because, you know, their governments are so corrupt. But I guess I'm digressing a little bit. We were supposed to be talking about other stuff. But I guess
it is interesting, though. It's very interesting to think about it because if you think about reparations in general, we have been giving reparations without even really consciously doing it. If you think about all the welfare that we do have and all the things that we do give away to free, we give it away to the poorest, or we give it away to the people who are struggling the most. Who struggles the most these days? it's the people who are below us because they choose to live lives of crime. They choose to live lives of laziness where they don't get ahead unless they are bouncing off our tailcoats, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is that I was listening to David Duke, David Duke's show this morning. I think it was this morning, yeah. Um, and uh, and he was talking about how even in Germany, Germany is still giving reparations for the Holla, whatever you want to call it. The Holla hoax is what I call it. But they are still giving reparations for that. And they've just increased it $88 million per year for reparations still from that kind of game that they've been playing over there. And we look at these things that are occurring, and it's always being put on our folk, whether we're involved or not. I mean, the people of Germany today, they had nothing to do with anything back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
yet they're paying, yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Keep going. My bad.
Oh, I was just going to say, and yet they're paying out at, and I don't even know the state of Germany. We could talk about that all day, but the state of Europe in general is just, it's very sickening. And to watch it happening over here, it's happening over here too. It's just happening more slowly, and it's happening at a more subtle rate. You know, it's not as forceful as it's been occurring over there. And so I don't know. I think all these people who are trying to get what they can get out of the system, it's just going to keep going because we're allowing it. And until we stop allowing it, it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah. No, I believe you're right on that. That is their reparations. They've been getting billions and billions of dollars every year for at least the last 30 plus years on welfare, food stamps, and all this other stuff. And like you said, they're doing it because they're lazy. The ones that do put forth some effort and try to make it in life, a lot of those, I can't say all of them, but a lot of them end up making it. And it might just be because of the fact that a lot of these companies will like do things to guarantee that these black people's businesses do not fail, right? That they'll give them all the loans, they'll forgive loans, they'll do all this other stuff. I mean, if anyone out there is listening that hasn't read this book, I would suggest, even though it's dated and it needs to be updated, I'm sure he'll get around to it at some point. But there's a book, the first book I ever read by Jared Taylor. It's called Paved with Good Intentions. You probably can find it at your local library. It's called Paved with Good Intentions, The Failure of Race Relations in America. And he goes over all this data about welfare and about how they have this affirmative action programs and these EOE programs and the college racial quotas the colleges uses and stuff like that back in the 90s. They still use now, but they just changed the name of it to where so they can make sure they got enough diversity in their colleges and stuff. And what they do is, you know, the race hustlers they used to have in the 90s, like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, don't really quite, I think, extort the money that they used to get, but they still are out there and they're still doing those things. But what I'm saying is, it goes over the statistics. It goes over the different loans and programs. There's like I remember a section in it that always sticks in my mind how, like, the General Motors company had these dealerships and they wanted to have a percentage of black-owned dealerships that reflected what was in black population in whatever cities or just in America in general. So they would give these black people loans. They would give them all these interest-free loans, and they would help them get these businesses started. The government gives them all types of loans and grants and everything else to help them get businesses started, right? I mean, they have all this wealth of resources that our people have given them to make it so they can be successful if they want to be. If they just decide that, hey, maybe I shouldn't just sell drugs and live in the projects and just do that. Maybe I should actually try to do something with my life. They have that opportunity where there's a lot of grants, loans, businesses. There's different options that they have that there's all this different government-backed stuff, and all these businesses will do it because they're trying their best to reach these quotas to where they got a certain amount of non-whites and positions of authority or power, right? So, okay, they got 13% was their goal of trying to have black dealerships for GMC. And they would sit there and help them out. If they were failing, okay, we'll give them some more money. We'll forgive some more loans. We'll give them these cars and all these different things. And like I said, it's called Paved with Good Intentions, The Failure of Race Relations in America. I would suggest, if you got time, grab that book from your library, read it, and see this has been happening for well over 25, 30 years now, and he has that information collected on. Hell, he might have it on his website at this point. I'm not 100% sure. I can look it up. But, what is it, American Century or American Renaissance, maybe? He might have it on his website, too. I don't know. But there is a lot of really good information that he did compile there. So if I was you, no, not you specifically, but like if I was one of the listeners, I would check it out and see if I can find it. Because it has been happening for a long time. And the reparations, they've been getting reparations. They just, basically want the money in their hand. So it's like you have to make it even easier than what it already is for us. Filling out paperwork is bullshit. You should just hand us cash. I mean, did you see that list that BLM had made for what white people need to do to basically what they should do? Like when they die, you should will your money to non-whites.
Oh, yes, I did. I saw that. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the kind of audacity these people have. It's like, we don't give you enough already, but hey, we'll give you some more. Like you said, all it does is encourage them. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for, these reparations. It really went a long way, and we're so glad and grateful and thankful that you've, made up for all those years of slavery from hundreds of years ago. Nope, nothing like that. No, it's like, screw you, people. Give us more. We need more Gibbs. This is bullshit. You treated us so wrong. It's like, I'm sorry, but picking cotton didn't start the American nation. It wasn't what made America great in the first place. It wasn't picking cotton, because if it was, the South would have won that damn war.
Right. Well, and not only that, but when it comes to just the fact that they do keep trying to take more and more. That's true. And our people, I've noticed that the ones who work really, really hard for their money, who go to their job every day, come home, live a nice, healthy life, raising families, doing all the things that they need to do to actually be successful and raise more successful people. We're instilling values, and we're trying to keep these values alive. And then you have all these other people who are not doing their part and who are just taking from us. And it makes, let's just say, I think it makes society break down in the sense of a lot of people start to get the idea that you don't have to work hard for anything. Let's all just go join the little roller coaster of victimhood, where if something bad happens to me, I can get whatever I want, And that's a lot of what it is that we're enabling victim mentality. And we're doing this on a daily basis, just in treatment centers that you see for different mental illnesses, for drug addiction, for whatever addictions there are out there. A lot of enabling is going on with our government, because the more we depend on our government, the more we're not going to want them to go anywhere. And that's the exact plan that's out there. They want us to depend on them as much as possible. And it makes them look like they're actually doing their part when they're handing out these resources. And so it's all just a big game.
Oh, yeah, and then they get to, get reelected. I give you more Gibbs. I give you more Gibbs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what I love about about Asatru, Odinism, whatever you want to call it. That's what I love about it, is that we actually have a code of honor that we stick to. We stick to it, and we realize that hard work gets you the best gifts. It's not the shit that's handed to you. It's the stuff that you work for and that you put your all into that actually brings the best life.
Yeah, well, I mean, what kind of life would you be able to say had a life of accomplishment if everything was handed to you throughout your entire life?
Exactly.
Even guys like, a lot of people will talk shit about Donald Trump, and I have my issues with him too, but like even a guy like him started out, sure, with a lot more money than we did, but his dad still made him go take that $1 million, invest it, and put it in businesses and work for it. He didn't just say, oh, okay, well, you failed, Donald, so here you go, here's another couple $1 million, let's go waste some more of my money. It was like, no, you're going to make it work, or, you're fucking done, I guess. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, but he made sure he worked for this stuff. And it's just like Donald made his kids do. He made them go work out on construction sites, learn how to use those bulldozers and stuff like that. So, I mean, and then at the same time, when you're handed an inheritance that your parents and your parents, your grandparents, all your ancestors handed to you, you need to appreciate it and try to make it grow and do what you can for it, because all these nations that we have, Germany, Austria, Italy, America, Australia, Canada, those are all inheritances that our collective forefathers have handed to us, and to give it away is a spit in the face to them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, and that's fine. People who do get inheritances, I mean, lucky them. Good for them. That's awesome. I think most of us would give anything to get a nice large amount of money just out of nowhere. But yeah, you're right. It's what we do with it that matters. And some people take it and they invest and they do all these things that kind of gives back to the people, and they do amazing things with their money. And then you got these other people who just kind of waste it or blow it on whatever, or they give it to the wrong sources, like charity organizations that they have no idea where the money is going towards.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, there is definitely some. I'm going to say there's some rich people who probably act just like the black folks, or whatever, that don't care and waste money and don't appreciate a damn thing. But there's I've known people that I've noticed since all my working years. I usually notice it seems these farm kids, these kids that grew out on farms that were had to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and go milk the cows and do whatever it is that farm kids do. I lived around a farm. I never actually worked in one, but my point is those people seem to have a pretty good work ethic, and that's the kind of thing. Even if you have money, because a lot of these farmers, believe it or not, got a lot of money. They got a lot of money invested in the land, and they got a lot of money. If they ever just decided to sell that land, they would be pretty wealthy. And a lot of them are already pretty wealthy, anyways. But they got to put in that hard work and that effort, and that's what I see is a lot of the yeomanry, as Bob Matthews used to say, that old yeomanry, the old English yeomanry, German, whatever. Those farm folk, those people really are the ones that help keep this country together. At least when it comes to agricultural industry and all that rest of that stuff. Now, admittedly, we've moved on to a much more technologically based society, and we do have a lot of our people doing technology, but that doesn't mean that those people aren't working. It's just a different kind of work. I got friends of mine that are in the tech industry, and they do their own type of work. Admittedly, it's not very physically challenging, but it's definitely mentally challenging and stuff. So that's a good thing. If you're being mentally challenged at work, though, I would suggest that you go to the gym and start physically challenging yourself, because you don't want to just be great in one area and lacking in another. Right, so you don't want to be someone who thinks, well, okay, I'm just going to be a rough and tumble big dude, and that's all that it takes is because our ancestors believed that you needed to be well-rounded and everything. If you were, I guess is the way they would say in today's society, an actual scholar athlete, not just an athlete, like a guy that was good at throwing the stones, like the world's strongest man stuff. That's a lot of probably the competitions that have back in the day, hammer toss, caber toss, and stuff like that. But those guys would also be intelligent and have to do, they'd have to be able to read poetry, write poetry. They'd have to be able to read the runes. There was a lot of things that they had to do. They had to also be intelligent, and that's some of your best generals too. Some of your greatest generals were very smart people. Guys like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, the rest of them, they weren't idiots. They knew what they were doing, physically capable of doing it, and physically capable, and they had courage, and they led men into battle. That's the reason why those men followed them. Not because they were hiding behind the lines, like, no offense, I know he was in the military, but a lot of the modern military top brass, I think, probably never fired a gun in their life and hid behind the lines the entire time. They were peacetime desk jockeys, and then when the war came, they became desk jockeys from sitting in a desk somewhere in the desert, surrounded in a green zone or whatever. Maybe there was a couple forward stations. Maybe at some point they might have actually had some real danger, but they weren't out there with their machine guns shooting at the enemy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's very true. I've experienced that. I've experienced that. Those officers that just sit there and they just kind of watch and they don't do anything else, and they fail their physical training tests, and they can't even qualify with their weapon. And then they send us all overseas, and they think that we're going to respect these leaders and follow them and listen to what they have to say, when really we just listen to our NCOs, you know, the non-commissioned officers, like the sergeants, the sergeant first class, the first sergeant, things like that, the people who actually train with us. And so, yeah, and half of these, that's the problem too, is that people are lacking a balance in the mental, physical, spiritual, and the emotional realms. You know, there's people like when you were in school, I'm sure you experienced this. When you were in school, you had cliques, right? You had like the jocks, the plebs. Yeah. And everybody thought jocks were just stupid, dumb, big lugs, you know, with nothing else to them. Yeah. And I think that label kind of got pinned on them to the point where they just said, okay, well, screw it then. I'll just be a big dumb jock. Why try, you know? And I think that's the other part too, is I don't know if you've ever heard of label theory, labeling theory, sorry. But it's just something that they introduced in psychology. And it was just when you give a label to somebody for so long, those people grow up and they believe it, and so they stick with it, and they don't even know that they're following that label. So it's a lot to do with self-awareness too. I mean, there's a huge amount of self-awareness and self-discipline that comes in that we're lacking today as well.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I do believe it can enforce that stuff, and people go ahead and just live up to that, what they believe it is. But I mean, I hope that our listeners out there are better than that they'll listen and think, hey, I always push on this show to be physically active and ready, and, you know, to be there, because I believe everyone that listens to my show is probably a highly intelligent individual and does a lot of reading and does research, and that's how they got in here. But I also want them to be physically capable as well. And I mean, if anyone's ever seen me on any live streams, you know, I'm a pretty big guy, so I'm not just sitting here blowing smoke up your butt trying to get you think I'm just some big fat dude sitting behind somewhere and not working out, right? So, but the other thing too is, you were saying that you had read some books. Do you have any recommendations of books that you would suggest to any of our listeners that might help? So especially if we have some female listeners that might, you know, help them see some racial consciousness and have, you know, awakening themselves, to say.
Oh, well, definitely David Duke's book. What's it called? The Awakening. Yes, that book for sure. I haven't fully read it. I've read parts of it. That's my fault. I get so busy and I kind of slack off. But right now I'm reading a book called Prometheus Rising. And Prometheus Rising isn't really a racial book or anything like that. It's just basically more of a intellectual type book where it says, open your mind to all the possibilities kind of thing. But I guess just when it comes to just being awakened, you know, it's a lot of it just has to do with our culture. Read the old things like Iliad and the Odyssey and things like that, and get to know our culture. You know, don't just sit here and say, "Oh, I'm white, I better join in." You know, you won't last long if you're just looking at the skin color of us and saying, "Oh, well, I'm white, so I might as well." You know. Yeah. So it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. You got a good point. That's something you need to appreciate, our culture and our history, and be able to read it. And I mean, if you're not a reader, then maybe watch some of the movies that they've remade, older ones, not the newer stuff, where they've remade the Iliad and the Odyssey, movies like Braveheart and stuff like that. That can inspire some pride into you about your culture and some of the stuff about your heritage. You know, that's, you know, because like I said, not everybody's a big reader, unfortunately. Right. So if that's your thing and you're not like a huge reader, you can always watch something like Braveheart. That's a great movie to start out with. It talks a lot about our culture. You got Rob Roy, you got Michael Collins. You know, I mean, there's probably all of those. They're going to have a little bit of comedy propaganda because unfortunately it's coming out from Hollywood. Right. I would suggest just reading like Herodotus, the histories, and, you know, reading Plato's The Republic, reading all this stuff that you can read. You know, given the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. You know, there's other books out there. The National Vanguard books has a great selection of books. I would, you know, get something from them, or go to the American Renaissance. They got a great collection. You also got Countercurrents that Grinder Greg runs. Sorry, I shouldn't call him that. But he does have a good selection of books. and I would suggest getting through it. I mean, the guy has really good books, and he does really good movie reviews too that I really enjoy. I ain't gonna lie, his White Nationalist Guide to the Movies. He's made a lot of movies that I really didn't like before. Actually, take a second look at it and be like, you know what? Yeah, I can see it from that perspective. I'll view it from my perspective of how I think this movie should be and what the message of it is. At least the message I'm taking away from it. So,
right. Well, and that brings up another one too. You said you mentioned how a lot of people don't have time. Maybe they don't have time to read, or they just aren't a reader. Well, there's also Survive the Jive. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a YouTube guy, and his name is Thomas Rowell or Roswell or something like that. But he focuses on European history and culture. And he has so much information in those videos that you wouldn't even need to read a book because of how much information he just puts out in those videos. And there's many of them, and they will enlighten anybody. You know, I can't speak highly enough about him. But and then not only that, but just listening to these types of shows, the one we're talking on right now. You know, just people who aren't really there, but they're curious and they want to know more. Just listening to these types of shows is going to set them in the right direction. So I thank you and a lot of other people for doing these types of shows. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I've been wanting to do something for a while to be more active. And when this opportunity came up, I was like, you know what? People need to hear my opinion, damn it. Because I talk a lot. And everyone that knows me is going to be like, Jesus Christ, that motherfucker talks a lot. And he hardly gets edgewise. But I do like Survive the Jive. He does have some really good information. He does a lot of really good research. You know, he's a good scholar. And I mean, I know some people don't like Varg, but he actually has some pretty good information. I may not agree with everything he says. I probably myself agreeing and disagreeing. I'd say it's about 50-50 with Varg. But he does have some good information. He does do some actual scholarly research. He isn't just blowing smoke out of his, you know, I mean, he does do some research on it. Him and Survive the Jive have had a couple of videos talking to each other, kind of something about a red hair thing. But, you know, I think I'm going to agree with Survive the Jive on it. I just don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and go with what the scientific consensus seems to be right now until Varg can come up with some breakthrough of his own. I'm going to go with them guys. But Varg does have good stuff, and, you know, you just got to take it the way it is. I mean, Varg is a very spiritual and kind of esoteric, mystic type of guy, so obviously he's filling a lot of this stuff spiritually that he thinks is some good truths, and, you know, I'd say he's a good dude to listen to. I just, you know, you got to take what you can take from him and take the good, and then the stuff you don't find so much good, you can say, okay, I don't need that, but you know, and another one, since we're talking about YouTubers, I like that the golden one kid. I think he's an inspiration. Huh?
Yeah, no, I like him too. He's funny.
Yeah. I mean, his English isn't exactly the best. I don't know. He's got a weird accent that always kind of comes through. But like I said, he's a real good kid. I think he's really inspirational for a lot of these younger people out there. A lot of these younger guys, I wish they would follow someone like him instead of Andrew Anglin. I mean, why you would ever think of Andrew Anglin as any kind of person to look up to is beyond me. He looks like a little trollish subhuman mixed breed of some sort that, you know, was sitting there bragging about going on sex tours in Asia. You know, so obviously, yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not the kind of person I want to follow. Not the kind of person I think is someone they should be by. I mean, yes, people have made mistakes in their past, and I shouldn't hold it against them. But when he started promoting the white Sharia stuff, I was like, screw this idiot. He definitely needs to be. He just needs to go away because he's not doing any good for us. Despite what some people think, I think he's done a lot more damage than any actual good. But guys like the Golden One, who I think are sincere and actually out there, you know, giving good training advice. He's putting out these Mithras challenges where he's talking about going out and doing some kickboxing and doing other challenges, MMA style stuff. It's people like that. Those are the kind of people that the kids need to be following and looking up to and doing stuff with. I mean, because I know the generation identitaire in Europe, France, Austria, England, UK now, and a lot of other European countries over there. They've been doing some good work, and they're having training camps or getting together. I know a friend of mine out in California, he said 2 guys from the U.S. were going to an MMA tournament soon, that a lot of these European identitarians and other nationalists were having. So it's going to be a good thing, and we're going to have two people from the USA representing us. Some of the California guys, I think they might have something to do with that Rise Above movement, and that's
Yes.
a bunch of different groups. I don't know if some kid in my server here thinks that they're Identity Europe, and it's not. It's like there are a lot of different groups that are in there. I won't mention all the names, but there are different groups. There's a lot of skins, a lot of old school guys that are in that group, kind of helping these kids out and teaching them how to fight and stuff like that. Because I mean, they didn't know how anything. They were, you know, college kids, probably never been in a fight before in their life. So they ended up getting there with these older guys who were a bunch of skins fighting lots. And, you know, they went to, you know, a lot of them been to prison. So, you know, they're experienced in all types of different fighting. It ain't just, you know, fist fighting. They're experiencing a lot of different types of fighting. A lot of, you got to survive. And there's, you know, I guess, skills with weapons that you would use in ancient type stuff, right? You don't have access to guns in a penitentiary, so you got to use improvised weaponry. So they become masters of improvised weaponry. And
I bet.
Yeah, so you get what I'm saying. It's like these kids have learned from some people that have got some actual skills, real world knowledge of this that can help. So it's good, and now they're going to the MMA tournaments. They're promoting the USA. We've finally got some people to go to these, because they've been having these MMA tournaments for several years now. This White Rex organization started something called the Jungen League that's been going on now since at least 2010 or earlier, maybe 2008, even before possibly. So it's good to see the U.S. has been putting some people out. My hat's off to the Rise Above movement guys and everybody out there in California doing this stuff. You're an inspiration for the rest of us out here in America to get our shit together and start doing this more on a regular basis.
Yes. And yeah, I'd just like to add in one more thing, because I'm going to have to be exiting soon. But when it comes to our folk, I think that's the biggest, most important thing that we can do is focus on the positives right now and stop looking at, you know, the hateful aspects, because there's always going to be something to hate or always something to be frustrated over or be pissed off about. There's always going to be that. But the more we focus on the positive aspects, like you say, like getting in physical shape and practicing our traditional ways and actually focusing on our family and our friends and our, you know, just our folk overall, we're going to move ahead quite quickly. But as long as we're focusing on any other people, I do believe that we're going to fall further behind because our focus isn't in the right place. So I think that these are good things.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is something I usually try to end every show towards the end and to try to bring out positive things that we can do that are beneficial and positive things that you can do instead of having to focus on all the negative. Because like you said, there's a lot of really horrible things that are happening, a lot of really easy targets, and if you just focus all your time on everything you hate and all the things that are going wrong in the United States and the rest of the world and the rest of the white world, you're gonna burn out real fast. You're gonna burn out. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I had to keep focused on a positive. I mean, I got close to getting burnt out before I went to prison, and it was rough sometimes, and it's gonna happen. But you know, if you're doing positive stuff like what you're doing and keeping in there, and you're having community, and you got people, a good support group, you're gonna be able to stick with it, and not just stick with it, but you're gonna be able to start succeeding and doing things and getting things moving in the right direction. And it is good. What you guys are doing out there is good. What the Wolves have done has been pretty good from what I can see. The guys out there in Wolves Nation, they're doing good stuff. Those Rise Above movement kids are doing good stuff. California scene's always been pretty big, and they've always been doing a lot of stuff, but now they're really starting to get their stuff together. And the ones that are, you know, actually serious about stuff are getting things done and doing things and moving it along to where it's not going to be stuck in a mire of, oh, well, let's just go out and drink a little bit, and then we'll kick somebody in the head, and then maybe one of us will go to jail, maybe not. And, you know, hey, what happens, happens, right? You know, so it's a lot more positive direction I like to see. I don't want to see people going to jail for having to go out and have a good time, and then they run into someone that's going to harass them or harass their girlfriends or doesn't like their T-shirts or whatever. Right. I mean, that is always a possibility, and it's unfortunate in the society we live in that if you defend yourself, a lot of times you end up getting called the you know, the evil person, the one that's the violent aggressor, when it turns out you were just trying to defend yourself or your honor. So it happens. But just, you know, be aware when you're out there. Like you said, be aware, take care of things, focus on a positive, get yourself into shape, and read some of these books that I told you about, and some of the books she was telling you about. And, you know, that's really all you got to do. If you can focus on you and focus on your people and uplifting them and not worry about everybody else and what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying be totally blind to what's happening in the world around you. You do need to be aware of things that are happening, but a lot less focus on that. You know, like 80% focusing on doing good and doing things for your people and your folk and your faith and everything, and maybe 20% of focusing on what's happening in the world surrounding you, because you don't want to be totally blind as to what's going on, because there's opportunities there to start recruiting people out of that you can talk to them and be like, hey, white brother, white sister, wake up. Here's something that'll help you out. You know, let me help you find the path back to our ancient ways. You know, to find the path back to home.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I agree. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even talk about any of the subjects today, but, you know, like you say, I don't have to do that all the time. That's not really that big deal unless you want to make a couple comments about some of the stuff you've seen this week. If there's anything that's really been burning on you, you're like, you know, but if not.
Yeah, well, I personally, I don't really, let's see, I don't have a TV on purpose. I don't watch TV on purpose, and I stay away from the news because most of it's lies and exaggerations. But from what I have heard recently about Trump and what he's been doing, I think it's great. I think all these little rallies that have been taking place with the LGBTQ population, and we'll just add the P in there because it will be in there soon enough, because nobody's stopping it. With them and these slut walks, the feminism crap, all of it is just, you know, it consumes the media because it's one of those attention grabbers. But I do believe that, I think they said that those people that actually believe that way are less than 10% of the population. And I don't even know if that's accurate, because once again, it's media putting that out there. But that's why I kind of just, I look at it in disgust, and I talk to my kids about it. I talk to my friends and family about it. I try to get them to see that this is not normal behavior. This is mental illness, and we need to eradicate mental illness, not sit there and say, oh, poor baby, let me help you and feed your mental illness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that it's just complete craziness.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is exactly it too. It is a mental illness, and people these people just encourage them to flaunt whatever illnesses and sicknesses they have, because the more of them that are like that, the easier it is for them to pass whatever other agenda, because you're going to be too worried about being upset by the kind of weird degeneracy they're trying to push on your kids, you know? I mean, how can you worry about what's happening to your country when you got to worry about your kids being pushed into being some kind of trainee or something? You know, it's like, I mean, I just don't know. When I was a kid, there was no counselors for gay and lesbian, bisexual students or nothing like that. It was like, when did this come about? Like, and then I read something in my area. I'm in Wisconsin. There was some schools in Madison, which is a little ways away from me, but I remember this years ago. They were talking about they had counselors for those kids in like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm thinking, at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, how do they even know what they are? How do they even know any of that stuff? They're still a kid, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on with their sexuality. Maybe they're being confused because they're seeing all these images that the media is bombarding them with. And, that could be part of it. You know, like the little kid they got out there that's like 9, 10 years old. I just seen this video from James Alsop where they were promoting them on the Huffington Post. This like 10-year-old, 9-year-old kid that's supposed to be a trainee, and he's an activist for, you know, trainee rights or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, he's a 10-year-old kid. He probably dressed in his mom's high heels once or something, and she all of a sudden said, "Oh, okay, you're definitely some kind of transsexual. We need to start giving you hormone blockers and start giving you some estrogen and all this other stuff." You know what I mean? This is obviously
That's
There's
complete child abuse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's child abuse and insanity, and this is encouraged to these kids these days. This is the stuff that they encourage. So that's the reason why you got to be aware of what's happening, because if you got kids in the school, this is the kind of shit they're going to preach at them. And unless you're actually homeschooling them, that's what's going to happen. And they definitely make it much harder to homeschool kids than they used to. They've really made an effort to make sure that they can try to get all these children into these public schools and indoctrinated in this stuff.
Oh, yes, yes, that is, and it's funny you bring that up too, is because I just actually made that decision that I'm taking a second shift only job. I'm going to try to get it at the work I'm at now, but if I can't, then I'm going to find a job where I can only get second shift work, just because I'm going to be homeschooling my two boys. They're not going back to the system. My daughter, she's going to be graduating next year, I believe. Yeah, next year. And so her, and she's really wise, and me and her, we talk daily about all these subjects. So I'm not really too worried about her. Sometimes she worries, and sometimes she gives me a little bit of concern, but then I just think, no, that's just teenage girl crap. So we're good.
Yeah.
But other than that, because she comes to all of my AFA events with me. She comes to, well, as many as she can anyways, when I have time. And she practices with me at home when it comes to the old ways, and she does all these things with me, and she doesn't mind doing it. She actually finds joy in it, which is a great sign. And
That's
so,
good.
and so my little boys, I have an 11-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, and those two are going to be with me, and I'm going to be homeschooling them until they are done with school. So. Yeah.
Well, I think that is probably the best way. If you can afford to do it, that would be what I would do. That would be my option. Just because, like you said, that's definitely the kind of stuff they're going to push. They're going to be pushing the white guilt as much as possible. The only thing detrimental about homeschooling is, then I'd say, is they don't get to see firsthand the kind of stuff you're telling them about, like the craziness of the outside world and the kind of vicious anti-white propaganda that they push. They won't be able to see it firsthand until after they get out of the house, and so they might try to rebel and do kind of a, you know what I mean, do like the twins did from Lynx and Lamb, from that April Grady's daughters did. They ended up deciding to rebel a little bit. But there was, I don't know. Anyways, I shouldn't get into that too much because it's not my actual thing. But I just know some people knew them, and they'd been smoking weed for a long time before their mom had distanced themselves from her, because it didn't help that she put them on national TV and they were getting death threats all the time. It's like, you shouldn't do that to your kids either. If you're proud of your kids for doing something that's pro-white, that's great, but you probably don't want to have the ABC, NBC, CBS, BBC, and other reporter knocking on your door and like letting them be displayed for the public. That's not, I'm not saying they can't be displayed for the public, but those hostile media outlets are obviously going to do their absolute best to twist it in the worst possible way as possible.
Oh yeah.
Stay away from them. Don't encourage them. Don't have them come and watch you and do your stuff. The only time I ever do anything with a major media outlet was just so I'd be like, all right, well, I'll do like a little 2-3 minute interview with you and then maybe record it to see where I can piece out of it. And then, they probably would cut the whole entire piece out because they wouldn't like what I'm saying, because it wouldn't be some kind of gotcha moment unless I was wearing my tank top and they'd be like, "Ooh, look, he's got a big swatch scare or something." And then that'd be about it. Like, "Oh, wow. Ooh, you caught me. Oh, I've been hiding that for, I hide that all the time. Oh, wait, no, I don't. I go out the street with it all the time. I'm not exactly worried about it. I get funny looks now and then, but most of the time I don't have too many issues. So,
right.
It is, it is what it is. But, I don't know what's going on with this camera, but sorry. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and let you finish up, because you did say you got to leave pretty soon. So I'll let you go ahead and plug whatever you want. But I do want to leave it on a positive note. Like you were saying before, we do need to focus on the good, positive aspects, like your homeschooling thing and stuff like that. If you're a mother that can stay at home and raise the kids and actually homeschool them, that's great. And there is a whole lot of resources for people that want to stay at home and do homeschooling if they can. I understand if you can. If you don't have the money, or you just don't really think you'd have the patience to be able to teach your kids to do that, then I get it. You know, that's fine. But I mean, at least if you're not going to have the patience to deal with them, try to, you know, when they get back from school, explain to them anything that's obviously counter to what the real world is about. If they see any of these Marxist ideologies that pushed in the books, let them know, you know, okay, this is obviously a lie, and your teacher is wrong about this, and we're going to have a talk at the school. Because, you know, you could possibly get something to happen. Because here's something, an example I'll tell you that is actually something you can do here on the local level. Is we had a school in Conowalk, which is just north of Milwaukee by about 30 minutes, right? But it's far enough out that it's kind of like a country type school. There's only maybe 10,000 people or something in this city. So it's far enough out that it's kind of like being in the country still, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the school was trying to push this, it was Black History Month, and they were trying to push this white privilege thing. So they taught some kind of white privilege class, telling all the kids out there how they were privileged and everything and whatever. You know, they were 2 steps ahead of everyone else because they had this invisible white privilege that they didn't know they had. And then the next day they were going to do some kind of privilege walk or something where, you know, the white people get ahead so many steps and everybody else has got to stay back, and they're going to do a little race, and whoever, you know, all the white people obviously win every time because we're so far ahead with all these privileges we get, right?
Yeah.
So the parents found out about this, and they raised some hell at the school board meeting and said, hell no, you're not going to have to be teaching our kids this commie bullshit. That ain't happening. And that's exactly what happened. The teacher and the superintendent's like, oh, hold on, sorry, we'll strike this. We didn't know it was going to cause problems. And they've tried doing this in Wisconsin more than once. They've had these white privilege classes and seminars for teachers in the state. And then a couple of years back, I remember they were doing something like this, and there was a bunch of people protesting and calling Madison, telling them, hell no, you're not going to teach this stuff in our schools. But apparently, they must have slipped it in real quietly. Now they're not putting it as part of their regular curriculum. It's just special curriculum for Black History Month or something.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's the first I've heard of it. And yeah, I haven't so far seen anything like that in my daughter's school that she goes to, or, you know, my son's. But like I said, we live in a small town, so it doesn't really surprise me that we're not practicing that way. I mean, I think she has maybe 2 Black kids in her whole school, and that's about the only diversity that there is between races and whatnot. And so she's seen a lot. She's been down to the cities. She's been around. And that's the thing. When I do homeschool my boys, you know, they're not going to be, definitely not going to be confined to the house, where they're going to go on field trips with me. We're going to go play dates, you know, things like that I can get them out there and to see what's going on in the world. Because you're right. I don't want to shelter them. I just want to homeschool them. So, and that's one thing. I just wanted to end that by saying, for women in general, because we do need more women that are supportive of our men and supportive of our folk in general. And I just want to say that strong doesn't mean you can't combine the sweetness and the loving and the care in there as well, you know, as the strong part. Because like I said, a lot of this stuff with the feminism movement and all that stems from women being afraid that they're going to be weakened, you know, that they're going to be overpowered, that they're going to lose out on something. And that's one of the biggest reasons the feminism movement ever even came to pass, is because women felt like, you know, they were being, overpowered. So that's the thing, is that women got to really realize that we're not in a weak state just because we're women. We have gifts, we have special things we can offer that we need to see and we need to look at as strengths. And we need to realize that these strengths are just as needed, and we don't have to go out and do some stupid slut walk to prove that we're good women, or that we're stronger than men, or I don't know what they're trying to prove, honestly. I mean, that whole walk confuses me. Feminism confuses me, actually. I don't even know. But yeah, I think it'd be great for women to just gather up our resources, gather up what we know to be good and true, and to bring it back to where it needs to be, which is with our people, our families, and just to realize who we really are, you know, and stop falling into mainstream society.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad to hear that. Now, I was gonna ask you: is there any website or anything like that you'd like to plug before we go? Anything that you think people should check out? Any YouTube? Well, they obviously Survive the Jive is one of the YouTube channels you plug. So anything else like that that you think would be good for people to look at or check out?
I mean, I listen to David Duke. He has a daily radio show. Sometimes he misses days, but rarely ever does he. He's really good. I know he doesn't. He holds the Christian views a little bit, which annoys me, but that's okay because the rest of the information he gives out is really good. And so besides him, besides Survive the Jive, I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube documentaries. Oh, Europa, the bad. Oh my gosh, it's a 10 clip thing on YouTube. It's a documentary about the history of Europeans, the Battle of Europa. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think I have. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, it's very good. Very, very good.
Yeah, I'm going to add some links here. I'm going to have Dion add these links I'm putting up in our chat so other people can see what I'm talking about with the different stuff with the Wisconsin schools and their white privilege tests and stuff. I'll put it on there. I don't know if you see it. If you look over on the chat thing, you should be able to see it.
Okay.
Do you see it? Okay. Well, check that out. Either that or I'll just send you a link to the server and stuff. I'll send you a link to some of this stuff after the show. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Well, thank you. You know, I really appreciate all of this, and I appreciate the time. It was an enjoyable conversation. I love having conversations like this, so thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I like to have as many female guests as I can. I like to be able to get the female perspective because, I mean, there's so many guys in this movement. And it's not just because you're a woman or anything either, but it does help because we need to have the fair sex. We need to be able to recruit more women in the movement. We don't need to push them away. If you listen to Weave in England and that shit and say push women away, I'm going to punch in your face when I see you. So stop that shit. You're an idiot. I will beat you until I beat some sense into you. I'm telling you, knock it off. And we don't want to run them away. We want to bring more of them in. We need to have families and stuff. And you guys are never going to have a girlfriend or find a family if you're pushing this white Sharia crap. I'm sorry. I don't care how frustrating modern women are and the feminist disease that's in their brain, but you're going to have to just work it out of them and, try to find you, I guess, go look for some women that are more traditional, even if you got to go to a church and that kind of, Jesus, holy moly crap. You can do it, okay? You can do it. I mean, I'm sorry for if I have anyone that's Christian listening to the show, I shouldn't say that, but you understand what I'm saying is obviously I'm not into that, and I don't think a lot of these kids are either. So you can do that. Go find one like that. You might find one that's a little more traditional, or at least believes that they should be, acting as a woman should, and want to be, and try to be part of your family, and that's the kind of gal you want to have a kid with. You're not going to turn the hoe into the housewife, as the old saying goes. I mean, if you do, then I don't know. You must have like a magic dick or something, dude. So good luck to you. Good luck. Good luck. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe you can turn it around. You let us know if you do it. So we'll give you a high five for all that. So, but like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode. This was a good, productive discussion. I'm going to have Dion throw in all the links that I put here in the chat so people can see it. And until next week, y'all have a good night and 88. So I'm going to let me hit this real quick.